Hare Krishna. I welcome you all to our Bhagavad Gita class. We are on chapter 15. The objective of this class is to enable the reading of the shlok, to help understand the basic meaning of the shlok, and to help understand the basic philosophy of Gita. Chapter 15 is the Yoga of the Supreme Person or Purushottam Yoga. This chapter is divided into 5 sections. We have covered the first section, 15.1 to 6, from material world to spiritual world. And today we'll start from shlok number 7, transmigration of the living entities. And then we'll try to also cover appreciating Krishna's position as our maintainer. Yeah. Summarizing what we have done in short. So, as we all know that Bhagavad Gita has got 18 chapters divided into 3 parts. The first 6 chapter is about more focused on Karma Yoga. It talks about a bit of Gyan Yoga and Dhyan Yoga. The middle 6 chapter, which is from 7 to 12, is about Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 chapter, which is from 13 to 18, is mainly about the Gyan Yoga. And in this section, when we started, this part when we started, in the 13th chapter, Arjuna inquired about, what is Gyan, what is game, and the 2 questions that he had also asked was, what is Purush and what is Prakriti? Now, because they are so important topic, so Krishna spoke the entire 14th chapter about Prakriti. Prakriti, the material nature, and he explained about the modes of material nature. Now, these are the modes of material nature because of which the Jivatma, the living entity, actually gets engaged in this material, in this body. So, Krishna explained that in a lot, explaining very clearly that what these modes of material nature are. And also he explained, then Arjun asked in the 21st shlok, he asked that how do we know the feature of the person who are in this mode, and how can we transcend this mode? That the focus was, how can we transcend these 3 modes, because till we are in these 3 modes, we will be actually repeating the cycle of birth and death. We'll be not moving out of this cycle of birth and death. It's only when we transcend, then we actually move to the Brahma Bhuta stage, from where we can actually get liberated, can break the cycle of birth and death. So Arjun asked, how does one transcend the modes of material nature? One of his question was, how can someone transcend these modes of material nature? When Krishna explained all, it looked so difficult to Arjun. And then Krishna explained in the 26th sloka of 14th chapter, Krishna says, Mam cha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityetan brahma bhuvaya kalpate. Krishna said that Mam is to Krishna. Mam is to Krishna. Yah means those who, what do? Those who avyabhicharena bhakti yogen. He explained that those who do bhakti to Krishna, it's very clearly called out. Mam is Krishna, to Krishna. Those who do bhakti to Krishna, and what sort of bhakti it is? Avyabhicharena. It is like unfailing. It is totally focused devotional service to Krishna, and then it is possible for them to transcend the 3 modes of material nature. So that is what Krishna explained. And then, so once he explained this, we talked about, then Krishna started explaining about this material world, and how can we move away, how can we actually, what is this material, how is this material world, and how can we go from this material world to the spiritual world. And that is what he started in the 15th chapter. This is the first section of 15th chapter, which we covered in the last class. So let us look at what Krishna explained in this 6th slok. So Sri Bhagwan Uvacha Urdhvam Moolam Adha Shakham Ashwatham Prahur Avyayam Chandasi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedvid. So Krishna explained Urdhvam. Urdhvam is up. Moolam is roots. Urdhvam Moolam. Adha means down. Shakham means branches. Ashwatham is banyan tree. Prahur Avyayam. Avyam is eternal. He explained that there is a tree which is whose roots are upward, whose roots are upward. All the trees' roots are downward. But this material world is like a tree whose roots are upward and the branches are downward. And Chandasi Yase Parnani, whose leaves are like Chand. Chand is like Veda, the hymns of Vedas. And Yastam Ved Savedvit. And Yastam Ved. Who can understand this tree of illusion, which is compared with the sansar? Someone who can understand this tree is called Vedvit. It means he is the knower of Veda. Now here, why Krishna explained all these things, this inverted tree, he compared this inverted tree to the sansar, to this material world, because this material world is actually not real. We all have been hearing about it. This has been created temporary. It is temporary and it will get destroyed. So this is temporary. The real tree is actually in the spiritual world. And then this is nothing, this tree that Krishna is explaining about is nothing but a reflection of the real tree. And then how can we see this tree in our material world? If we go near a pond or a river and if we see a tree, then we can see in the reflection the tree in the reverse one. And why Krishna says the root is at the top? Because Brahma is also a part of material world who is the top, and from there everything expands. Prahuris expands, it keeps on expanding from there. So the root is at the top, and from there the entire material world is expanding. Yeah. So this is what we have learned from the first slok. And then Krishna said, अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसितास्तस्य शाखा गुणप्रविद्धा विषयप्रवाला अधश्च मूलानि अनुसंततानि कर्मानुबंधी बंधीनि मनुष्यलोके. He says adhascha urdhvam. Adha is down and urdhvam is up. Prasuta is expanded. Tasya shakha is branches. Of this banyan tree, the branches are both. It is downward also, it is upward also. And guna pravidha. And how, what is actually, who is watering this material tree? This tree of illusion gets watered by the modes of material nature. The three modes in which the living entity are, accordingly this is the watering process. That is what is watering this tree of illusion. And Vishay Pravala. Vishay means the sense objects. What is the sense object? The twigs are the sense objects. The twigs of the tree are the sense objects. And then it says Adhascha. Adhascha is downward. Mulanya. Mulanya is again roots. They're also down, the roots which are going downwards. And they are secondary roots which are actually going down. Karmanu bandhini manushaloke. In this manushalok, in this bhu, what is happening? This roots which is going down is actually the fruitive. This is what is binding the people in this manushalok. They are getting bound by doing this fruitive actions, right? So this is what we understood about this tree of which is basically the banyan, inverted banyan tree, which is the reflection of the real tree. And then Krishna says, "Na rupamasya tathopalabhyate, na anto na cha adi च संप्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेन सुविरूढ़ मूलम असंग शस्त्रेण दृढ़े चित्वा." And after explaining this particular tree, this tree, Krishna explains that no one can actually perceive this entire tree. It is very, very difficult to perceive this entire tree because you can't see the ant, neither the end, neither the beginning, and neither the, so it's basically neither its foundation, it cannot be seen. And ashwathamena suvimudha mulan. Now the suvirun is basically very strongly, the mula, the roots are very, very strongly attached of this banyan tree. And Krishna says that if we want to, how can we move from the material world to the spiritual world? We have to asanga shastra. Asanga means detachment. Asanga means by detachment. Shastra is weapon. By what weapon? By the weapon of detachment. And how? Drinhen. Drinhen means with full determination. Chitva means to cut. So what we have to do, if we want to move to the spiritual world, we have to cut. We have to actually cut. this material tree by the weapon of detachment. And detachment to all, because still we are attached, we are actually getting bound, and we'll keep on in the cycle of birth and death. But it's only when we completely detach ourselves, then what will happen, and we cut this tree from the material world, then only we can actually go towards the enter the spiritual world, right? And then Krishna says tata, and after cutting, what we have to do, tata padam tat parimargritvam यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूय तमेव चाद्यम purusham prapadye yatah praviti prasthita purani. Krishna says that after it has been cut by detachment, detachment to family, detachment to material things, the total detachment when we do. Now always we to remember, detachment alone cannot succeed, because when we detach ourselves, there's still a chances of falling down, because finally we are in this material world. So it's detachment to the material world, but attachment to Krishna. Only when we detach ourselves to the material world, but we attach our senses to Krishna, then only we can move up from the spiritual, from the material world. Then only we can move forward. Tata padam tat parimargatva. Krishna says, and then start seeking from which, having gone, start looking for that place from which go. Once we have yasmin gata, once you have gone from there, na nivartate bhuya, we will not come back again. Seek for that place. Once you go there, we will not come back again to this material world. And then what? How can we do that? Tameva chadyam cha adyam purusham prapadye. And surrender. Prapadye is surrender. Surrender to whom? Adyam Purusha, the original Purusha. Who is the original Purusha? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So what we have to do? We have not only to detach. After detaching, we have to completely surrender. And surrender to whom? To the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chadyam Purusha, the original Purusha. And then Yata Praviti Prastabhrani, whom everything extended since time immemorial, which is everything is actually because he is the source of everything. So we have to go and surrender to him, because once we surrender to him, so Krishna says, to cut this material world and go back to spiritual world, we have to use two methods. One is detachment from this material world and surrendering to Krishna. So these are the two-step process. If we follow that, then we are actually moving from the material world to spiritual world. And then Krishna says, he had also explained this process in the 4th chapter, 34th shlok. He says, it's not only how do we surrender. He explained that tad vidhi paripatena pariprashtena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarsham. Krishna says that what we have to do, we have to surrender, we have to look for the spiritual master. The spiritual master who is coming from parampara, and who is self-realized, who has realized. Because what we have to do, we have to surrender, and then we have to do, humbly do service to him. We have to humbly do service to him. When we do this, then what will happen? We have to humbly do serve to him, and then we have to ask questions. Then in that case, what will happen? From the spiritual master, we will gain knowledge which will help us to achieve the supreme truth. And then Krishna says in the 5th shloka, what is the characteristics of the person who can actually have, what are the characteristics of that person who can do this? Krishna says, Nirmana Moha, Jit Sanga Dosha, Adhyatma Nitya, Vinivritta Kama, Dvandeir Vimukta, Sukh Dukh Sangair, Gachantya Mudha, Padam Avyetat. Krishna says that the characteristics of such person who can actually go to the spiritual world, can reach there, is nirman. Nirman means they have no affection for honor, not looking for honor. Moha, they don't have any illusion that I need this, this is what they are. They don't have any illusion, they don't want any honor. Jit means they have won over. What have they won over? Asanga dosha. So they have actually won over the what do you call it, attachment to the to us, to the material things. They have won over the attachment to all the material things. And then adhyatma nitya, they are situated in the adhyatmic platform. So they are spiritual, they are situated in the this in the spiritual platform. And vinivritta kama, and then they are done with the lust. They have no lust for anything. Dvandair vimukta. Dvanda is they are free of dualities. Dualities of happiness, distress, happen. What do you call it? Honor, dishonor. So all those things, they are all the duality that we all go through in this world. They are free from. It doesn't matter to them. They are neutral to that. Sukh dukh sangair. They are whether it's happiness or they are just immaterial to them. Then gachante mudha padam avyatat, and then and then they are free from bewilderment. They don't like they're very clear that now it's only Krishna, and then they surrender to the supreme personality of Godhead, and then they go to his kingdom. This is what he is explained in the fifth slok. And then the last slok that we studied last time is about, then Krishna explains about the spiritual world. Krishna says, my world, na tad bhasite suryo. There is no sun. We don't have the illumination by sun. Na shashanko. Shashanko is moon. Neither by moon. Na pavaka. Pavaka is fire. The illumination is not because of sun, moon or fire. Yad gatva na nivartante. When you gatva means when you go there, na nivartante, you will not come back. Tad dhamam paramam mama. Mama is my. In my dham, when you reach there, the param dham, the supreme dham, when you reach there, it is self-illuminated. It is because of the presence of Krishna itself. It is self-illuminated. You don't need you don't need a sun or a moon or a fire to get the whole things illuminated. So this is what we had studied till last time. So let us now continue on with chapter 15, which is the second section, transmigration of living entity. Now Krishna is explaining about us, the living entity, we. How does our transmigration happens? Jivatma, how do we transmigrate? So let's read this one. 15.7. ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः कष्टानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः कष्टानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति माताजी ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः कष्टानि इन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति. So this is the definition of who we are. What is our real position? And Krishna says, Mamai Vansho. Mam is Krishna's. Mamai is he. Ansho is part. Ansho is fragmental part. So Krishna says, my fragmental part. Jiva Loke. What is Jiva Loke? Jiva Loke is all this. We talked about the entire material world. It starts from, we talked about Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from whose navel the lotus stem was there, and in the end there was a Kamal where Brahma is there. And then we talked about in this lotus stem there are all the 14 planets are there. We are on the middle one, which is Bhu, above us which have 6 planets, and below us which is basically the higher planets, and then below that we have hellish planets, and from Bhu Bhuaswa. So is the third lok from Bhu. So this is what we talked about. So the Jiva Loka is all these 14 lok and all the jiva. So it's covered. When you say Jiva Loka, it is about all the things. And we talked about that there are 84 lakh species. Like we talked about 84 lakh species are living entity are there. So Jiva Loka covers all of them. Jiva Bhuta means all these Jiva Bhuta covers all the 84 lakh species. And Krishna says all of them, whether it is an ant, whether it is an insect, whether it is anything, whether it's a plant, anything, all are nothing but they are my ansha. They are my fragmental part. Mamai vansho jiva loke jiva bhuta. And he says that they are not only my part today, but sanatana. Sanatana means eternal. Sanatana means eternal. So Krishna says that all the jiva bhuta, whatever living entity is there in all the planets that we can think of in this material world, all are nothing but my ansha. They are my fragmental parts, and they are not that, when they come to this material world, they become they are a part that comes out of Krishna, and they comes here, and later they go and merge into Krishna. It's not like that. They are the part Sanatana. Even when they get liberated, they go back to the spiritual world as them. So it is Sanatana. Eternally, they are a part, fragmental part of Krishna. Again, we should not think that, when we say fragmental part, that it is, a piece has been cut which is incomplete. No, it is a complete whole. It's a complete whole. It is a whole in itself which can sustain and do its own everything. So it's a complete whole, just like we talked about. And that is what is a part. And also, because it is a part, the qualities of Krishna, all the qualities of Krishna is also in them. For example, we have to explain this from the ocean. As we talked about, we look at the ocean, and when we take a drop of ocean, then all the qualities of the ocean is also there in the drop of water. Similar drop of ocean. Similarly, this fragmental part of the ansha that we have, the qualities which is there in the Krishna is also there. The difference is in the quantity. We are infinitesimally small, but Krishna is infinite. Krishna is infinite. So that is the relation. And also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained this by his philosophy, which is called Achintya Bhed Abheda. Achintya Bhed Bheda. Abheda means it is inconceivable. Achintya is inconceivable, and Bhed is difference, and Abhed is, it is simultaneously one and different. And when we think about that, think about the ocean and think about a drop of ocean. We talked about qualitatively it is one, but think about in the ocean, big ships can go, but in this one drop, now you can't think about that. Now big shark and other animals, another, the water animals can stay in ocean, but in this drop it cannot. So it is simultaneously one, but it is again different, right? So this is the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, that he is, that's how he explained the existence, right? And then, although we are a part of that, but still we have, just like in one of the characteristics of Krishna is independence, even this jiva that we also have this minute independence, and this minute independence is the cause of our struggle. This minute independence is the cause of our struggle. So let's read that second line. Krishna says, Mana Kashtani Indriyani. Prakriti Sthani Karshati. Karshati is basically struggling. So struggling, why this Jiva Loka is struggling? Why is this struggling? Because of Mana, mind, and the Indriyani. We know there are five senses, sense organs, and Kashta. Kashta means six. So the five senses along with the man, which becomes six, because of this, because Prakristha means it is situated in the material world. So we talked about, if you remember in the 13th chapter, when we talked about that, Krishna asked about Kshetra, was explaining about Kshetra and Kshetragya, and we said that Kshetra is this body. Then we talked about that this body is made up of 24 elements, and those elements are material in nature. It is temporary. All the body is made up of material thing, which is temporary. But so, and the man, the indriya, all are part of this body, which is temporary, right? So that's why Krishna says, Mana Kashtani Indriyani Prakristha. So they all are a part of Prakriti. They are situated in Prakriti. But because they are a part of Prakriti, so what happens? By man, the mind is the one through which the Ansh, which is the soul, gets the enjoyment of the senses. So mind is the main culprit, which actually gets attached to the through the senses. It gets attached to all the material things. So because of mind and the six indriyas that we have, five indriyas we have, which is situated in Prakriti, what happens? Everyone is karishyati, struggling. We are getting struggling because we want to master it over. We want to lord it over. But actually, what are we doing? We are actually becoming servant of that. We are struggling. So here, so this is what is this shlok. So let us read the English translation. The living entities in this conditioned world, are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Right? So what is the definition of living entity? What is living? It's a part of Krishna, but because we have forgotten our actual relationship with Krishna, because we have forgotten our actual relationship with Krishna, what we have done, we have started identifying ourselves with this body, and not only with this body but also with this prakriti, with this material world, and because of that we are struggling with, we are looking for happiness, which is actually like a mirage. Once we get a happiness, then we want more, and this also is the cause of our our binding to this cycle of birth and death, right? So we go to the next slok. Shariram yad vapnoti yachapyutkramatishwarah गृहीतवेतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् शरीरं यद् वाप्नोति यच्चाप्य उत्क्रामातीश्वरः गृहीतवेतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धा निवाशयात् शरीरं यद् अवाप्नोति यच्चाप्य उत्क्रमातीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात्. Now here, let's look at the meaning of that. Shariram. Shariram is this body. Yat avapnoti. Avapnoti is getting. It gets into the body. Yat chap utkram. Utkramat means it basically gives away. Utkramat gives away. Ishvara. Ishvara is God. Right. Now grihitva is again to accept, to accept something. Betani. Etani means all the. Etani is referring again back to the previous flow. Thus the mind and the six senses. Sanyati. Sanyati is get move forward. Vayur gandha nivashrayat. Vayu is wind, gandha is smell, and avashyat is basically what do you call it? Avashyat is basically sthan, place, right? So let us now see what Krishna is explaining in this slok. Now we'll focus on the last part of this slok, which is written Vayur Gandha Nivashrayat. Okay, Vayu is wind, Gandha is smell, and Avashyat is basically sthan, place, right? Now think about how does wind work. So if suppose the wind is blowing and it blows from over a garden with beautiful flowers and they have good smells, what does the wind do? Wind actually flows by those flowers, take the smell of the flowers but leave behind the flowers. It doesn't pick the flower remains there, but it takes the smell of the flowers and it moves forward, and wherever it is there, everything starts smelling like that, right? Yeah. Now if suppose the same wind passes, then it moves forward, and suppose there is a dirty and a stinking area, again it will carry that stink and it will move on, right? So that is how the wind blows and carries the gandh smell along with that from that sthan, and it basically distributes everywhere. Now similarly, what happens? The soul, because it is identifying itself with the body, because it is identifying itself with the material world, so what it does, it takes a sharira, it gets a sharira, and when it is done with that, then along with it does activity on that sharir, and in the end what happens, the soul along with the subtle thing. What is the subtle items? Subtle item is mind, intelligence, and false ego. It actually moves from that body. It leaves behind the body. It leaves behind the sharir. It leaves behind the body. It takes the all the deeds they would have done, right? All the desires that the body had when the soul was in that body, whatever desire the person had in that in the mind and in that body, all these things. So the mind, the buddhi, the intelligence, and the false ego, they wraps, and that is a subtle thing that moves along with the soul, and then it takes up a new body. It takes up a new body, and the new body is based on the desire, and the it depends upon the desire and the thoughts that person had at the last moment, at the end. Yeah, so that basically, that is how the transmigration of the soul happens from one body to another, and that is how they get a new form. It is all based on the deeds that is being done, the desires that we the person had in that particular sharir, and the activity, the karma that had been performed, right? Accordingly, the soul, along with the mind, intelligence, and false ego, it moves from this body, it leaves behind this body, and then takes up a new body based on the desires, whatever, that. And specifically, what really makes a decision is, Krishna says in the 8th chapter, he says, antakale cha mameva. At the time of death, whatever thoughts you had, accordingly you will get the form. And that's why now let's look at the shlok. It says, Shariram yad avapnoti. When you get the sharir. And how do you get the sharir? Grihit vaitani sanyati. Grihit is to accept. Vaitani is, Aitani means the man, and the subtle that's coming. Sanyati, as it goes, it moves along with that. So the soul leaves that body and moves to another body, just like the vayu. It has taken the gandha, it has taken the smell from the flowers, and then it moves to the different place. Similarly, the soul also takes this body, leaves the body, just like the vayu had left back the flowers there. Only the smell it is taken. That is the desire. Similarly, the soul only takes the desire and those subtle things along with that, those impressions of those, and enters into the new body. Yeah. Now let us read the English translation. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Right? So just like weeds keeps on moving, it takes one smell, then another. Similarly, the soul also keeps on transmigrating from one body to another, leaving behind the, right? Okay, now let's go to the 9th shlok. Shotram chakshusparshnam cha rasnam ghranameva cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishya anupasevate. Shotram chakshusparshanam cha rasanam ghranameva cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishya anupasevate. Right? Now, Mataji, repeat. Shotram chakshusparshanam cha rasnam ghranam cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishya anupasevate. Right? Now Krishna says, Shotram is here. Here means the ears. Chakshu is eyes. Sparshanam is touch, the sense of touch. Cha, Rasanam is a taste, that is by tongue. Ghaname is smelling power, that is nose. Cha, Adhishtaya Mana. Mana is the mind, and adhisthaya is, it is all controlled by the mind. So manishchaya ayam vishya anupasayate. It means based on the mind, which is basically controlling all these things. The mind is basically the adhishtaya mana means it is controlled by, mana is controlling all these things. So based on the mind, the way the thoughts are, desires are, accordingly what gets formed? The ears, eyes, skin, tongue, gland. Now if your desire is good, if your desire has been in the mode of what do you call it, in the mode of goodness. In the goodness, then you will go higher in the loka. You may go to a swarg lok. If the desires were like in the mode of passion, then you get birth in the like a human, probably in the bhulok. But when your desires are animalistic, right, you want to eat meat, you want to, so if it is animalistic, then what will happen? You will fall down to the animal kingdom, and accordingly your what do you call it, all your ears and all other forms you will get, right, once get. And if suppose your consciousness is mana has been in Krishna, then you have transcended the mode, then actually you will go to Krishna. So it all depends upon our consciousness, because consciousness is always pure. The soul is always pure. It is like a water. The water is always clear. By nature it is clear. But then if we add some dirt to it, it becomes dirty. So it all depends upon how pure we keep our consciousness. And again, not only pure, but how much we have attached to Krishna, right? So let us read the English translation. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So it is continuing from the last slok. It all depends upon our subtle, the impressions that we are carrying along with the soul. Accordingly, we'll get that, right? We go to the next slok, which is, so here in the sixth slok, in the sixth chapter, Krishna has explained a very, very important slok. And Krishna has said that for those who have conquered the mind means they have total control on the mind. They have a very clear distinction between right and wrong, and where their attention or consciousness should be attached. The mind is the best of friends. But for those who have failed to do so, those who have not conquered the mind, his mind will remain the greatest enemy, because it is the mind, it is the man which takes you to Krishna, or it takes you away from Krishna. So mind is something which has to be controlled. Mind is a mind which will always keep on jumping, running, desiring, yeah, but that is what has to be controlled. So it is, we have to have a stronger intelligence, and intelligence is what that controls the mind, right? Now we go to the next slok, 10th slok. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vivimudhana anupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So here Krishna says, let's again look at the last part of the shlok. Pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Jnana chakshusha means, jnana means knowledge, and chakshu means eyes. So someone who has a vision of knowledge. What knowledge? Knowledge means, what sort of knowledge? the knowledge towards scriptures. That when someone has the knowledge from the scriptures and understands, if someone has read Bhagavad Gita, have understood Bhagavad Gita, then we understand that I am not this body, I am the soul. And what am I? I am actually Mamaivansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. I am a fragmental part of Krishna. That is my actual position. But what has happened? Because I wanted to lord over, become my master. Instead of serving Krishna, I wanted to enjoy and be my master. So I am sent to this material world. Yeah. And I have been sent to this material world and I'm suffering. I'm thinking I'm happy, but I don't even know, because this someone who has understood, who has a jnana chakshu, who has a vision of knowledge, can see this. What can see? Krishna, that person can see Utkramantam Sthitam Vapi. Utkramantam means is like, leaving the body, and then sthitim is situated, changing the body from one gross body to another. Vapi bhunjanam, enjoying. Va guranavitam, enjoying in the influence of modes of material nature. Vimudha nanupashita, someone who is foolish cannot understand this, what is happening. But someone who has the vision of knowledge, understands the scriptures, understand who am I, what is the goal of life, what am I doing here. Someone who has this knowledge can see that what is actually this happening and can break the cycle of birth and death. So let us read the English translation. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Right? So someone who has, there's a shlok which Krishna has explained in the 8th chapter. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastatya sanshaya. Krishna says, whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me, alone at once attains my nature. Of there's no doubt. So here, someone who has a knowledge, who has a jnana chakshu, that person knows that. So what will that person do? Will prepare for the antkal. And how do you prepare for the antkal? Because whatever you have, it is like, at the antkal, whatever is your vision, whatever is your thought, that is what the form the person will take. For example, we all know the story of Maharaja Bharat. What happened to Maharaja Bharat? He was a great king. He was a great king. He was ruling the entire world. But then what happened? And he has renounced everything and has gone to forest. And why? So that he can actually get liberated. And then he got attached to a deer. Yeah. He got attached to a deer. And what happened in the next life? He became a deer. Because while dying, at the time of death, he was thinking about the deer. So whatever thoughts we have at the last moment, accordingly we get the form. That is why it is very, very important for us to practice the chanting. We have to practice, we have to do devotional service. The more devotional service we do, and what is devotional service? It is basically chanting the holy name, hearing about the Lord, hearing about the Lord, going into the association of devotees, then praying, worshipping the God, reading hymns, doing vandana to that, decorating the God. All these things actually helps us to develop our consciousness and attachment with the God. And then what happened? The more we are attached, the probability of remembering them with Krishna at that point of time is higher. Right? So that is the reason why it is said that, never leave your tongue free. If the tongue is free, it should always be the name of Krishna that should be coming out from the tongue. It could be Krishna, it could be Rama, whatever. But then your tongue should always be engaged in the holy name. It should be chanting the holy name so that it is never free. And so that then the probability of remembering becomes higher. And that is what we practice by chanting, by hearing, by reading, by decorating, by praying, by doing sankirtan, by association of devotees. All this, we are making prasad, we are doing whatever we are making, we are offering to Krishna, and then so all these processes are helping us to groom ourselves to be actually prepare for our last moment, so that we can eat very quickly, we can break the cycle of birth and death and go to Krishna. Right? Now let us read the 11th shlok. यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन् अवस्थितं यतन्तोप्य अकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्यस्य अचेतसः यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात् आत्मन् अवस्थितं यतन्तोऽप्य अकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्य अचेतसः माताजी यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्या आत्मन अवस्थितं यतन्तोऽप्य अकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः. So Krishna here says yatan kana means endeavoring, someone who is trying. Yatan, the word is yatan, someone who is trying, who is endeavoring. What is he endeavoring? Yogina, those yogis, those who are trying. What are they trying? Pashyantya atma avasthita, they are situated in self. They are situated in self. Those yogis who are situated, who has a self realization and they are situated in self, they are situated in the self, then pashyantya, they can see. What can they see? They can see this whole process of, they can understand this whole process of the soul moving, leaving this body and again taking another body, just because the soul is attached to the material world and is in the modes of material, is influenced by the modes of material nature, and is actually, so this someone who is self-realized can very clearly see it. But yatanto, someone who is endeavoring, but akritatmano is not self-realized. He is trying, but he is not self-realized. Na enam pashyantya achetasa, and whose consciousness is not pure. Chetasa means Chetna means consciousness. Achetasa means the consciousness is not pure. Whose consciousness is not pure and he is not self-realized, although they try to understand that, but still they cannot understand. Still they cannot understand. So one has to have a pure consciousness. One has to have a pure consciousness and has to be self-realized to understand all these things. And how do we get that? We get that again by chanting the holy name, by reading scriptures. Bhagavad Gita explains this in detail. Reading Bhagavatam, spending time with association of devotees, because there the discussion is on all these things. Then we understand, we hear. By hearing is the first thing that we need to do. The more we hear, the more we learn. It is said that when we go to the temple, we see the God not by the eyes but by the ears, because you can only get attached to the God as much as you can only get attached the more you have heard about him. If you have not heard about the God, if you are not aware about your scripture, then what will happen? You go to the temple, you just see something of stone or something of metal or of something of marble and come back without understanding the history behind it, without knowing the qualities of that. So it's very, very important for us to understand Bhagavad Gita, to understand Bhagavatam, so that we can see the God, the way the God is, right? So let us read the English translation. The endeavoring transcendentalist, who are situated in self-realization, can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Got it? So this finishes the last section of transmigrating from one body to another. How does the living entity transmigrate? And now we will see the role of Krishna as our maintainer. That is the next section from 12 to 15. It talks about appreciating Krishna's position as our maintainer. So let us see what Krishna says in Shlok number 12. Krishna says, Yad Aditya Gatam Tejo Jagat Bhasyate Akhilam Yat Chandramasi Yachagno Tat Tejo Vidhimamakam
तत्तेजो विधिमामकम्
यद् आदित्यगतं तेजो
यद् आदित्यगतं तेजो
जगद्भास्यते अखिलम्
जगद्भासेते अखिलम्
यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ
यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ
तत्तेजो विधिमामकम्
तत्तेजो विधिमामकम् यद् आदित्यगतं तेजो
यद् आदित्यगतं तेजो
जगद्भासयते अखिलम्
जगद्भासयते अखिलम्
यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ
यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ
तत्तेजो विधिमामकम्
तत्तेजो विधिमामकम्. Krishna says yad aditya. Aditya means sun. Tejo is the tej, the splendor of the sun. Jagat bhasyate. Jagat is this material world. Bhasyate is illuminate. Just like the sun illuminates this entire jagat, entire world. Akhilam. Akhilam is all, complete world, right? Yat chandramasi. And chandramasi is chandrama. Yat agno. Agno is agni. It is basically the fire. Tat jo vidhimamakam. Krishna says the tej, the splendor of all these things, the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, the splendor of the fire, everything is because of me. That with this you should know it is from me. So let us read the English translation. The splendor of
the splendor of the sun,
which dissipate the darkness of this whole world,
dissipates the darkness of this whole world,
comes from me.
comes from me.
And the splendor of the moon,
The splendor of the moon,
and the splendor of the fire,
and the splendor of fire
are from me. So now Krishna explains that in this material world, he not only created this material world, but to illuminate this material world, he has sent the sun. And sun has a method. It is not at full day it's a sun. The sun also rises and sets. Now imagine a life without sun. What will happen? There'll be nothing will grow. Nothing will grow. Everything will be dark. And in dark, nothing will grow. And imagine a life without fire. We cannot cook. Nothing will happen. We can't even cook. Right? Like, imagine a life without moon. If moon is, it is said in the next sloka, Krishna will explain the role of moon. It says that all the vegetables that are grown, it is the during the when the moon comes, it is the one that actually puts the juices in the vegetables, and the aushadhi is put by the moon. And he says with imagine, so that is the thing. And imagine if Krishna is not there, there'll be no sun, there'll be no moon, there'll be no fire. It means there'll be no life, right? So all of us, the maintainer is Krishna. He when he has sent to us here, he has not only, if you remember third chapter, Krishna says that when because the living entity wanted to enjoy and wanted to be their master, what I did, I created a material world and I sent them there. But at the same time, I also sent Vedas. What did I do? I also sent Veda. Why did he send Veda? Because he had sent Veda so that they know how, so that we all learn and know how to live our life and how to come back to him. And similarly, he had sent sun, he had sent moon, he has sent fire. They all are his energies, right? We go to the next slok. गामाविश्य च भूतानि
गामाविश्य च भूतानि
धार्याम्यहम् ओजसा
धारायामहम् ओजसा
पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वा
पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वा
सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः
सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः
गामाविश्य च भूतानि
गामाविश्य च भूतानि
धार्याम्यहम् ओजसा
अहम् ओजसा
पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वा
पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वा
सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः
सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः
माताजी
गामाविश्य च भूतानि
गामाविश्य च भूतानि
अहम् ओजसा
धार्याम्यहम् ओजसा
पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वाः
पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वाः
सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः
सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः. Gama means planets, and avishya means enter. So what does Krishna do? He entered into each and every planet. Cha bhutani dharyam aham ojasa. And ojas means energy. Dharya means they are actually, the planets are in the air. The planets are in the air because of his energy. And Pushnami Choshadi Sarva. And what do I do? Som means moon. Som means moon. Moon. And what I do, I actually, Pushnami means nourishes. What I do, I nourish what? Aushadhi. All the aushadhis, all the medicinal plants, herbs or vegetables is all nourished by me. All of them are nourished by me by Som. Som is moon, by moon. And what I do, I actually send the Rasatmaka, I send the juices in that, so that the living entity can take it and sustain. So now imagine, I enter into each planet, and by my energy, just let's read after me. I enter into each planet.
I enter into each planet.
And by my energy.
And by my energy.
They stay in orbit.
They stay in orbit.
I become the moon.
Become the moon.
And thereby supply the juice of life.
Thereby supply the juice of life.
To all vegetables. Right? So basically, we know that the planets, sun is in the center and all the planets are evolving. So we read it in the science that this is happening. But how is it happening? And Krishna says that I enter into the each and every planet. And we also know that in all the living entity, he is a super soul. He enters into each and every living entity, and he's there as a super soul, helping this living entity to remember from the, although the living entity is forgetting everything, but then it starts doing everything again, right? So it is there reminding, thinking and helping the living entity. And again, it is in all the planets. Just like imagine a human. Yeah. Now when the human is alive, we can swim on the water, right? But when we are dead, what happens? We sink. We actually sink in the water, right? Later we definitely float, but then initially we'll sink. Similarly, all the planets are floating in the air is because of his energy. Everything is at a particular distance, and it is doing the work. It is all because controlled by Krishna. And all the vegetables and aushadhi that we have, it is again getting the juice from Krishna. This is what Krishna says here, right? Let's read the translation. I enter into each planet.
I enter into each planet.
And by my energy. They stay in orbit. I become the moon. And thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Right? And let's read the last slok today, 14th slok. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. Praninam Deham Ashritah. प्राण अपान समायुक्तः पंचाम्य अन्नं चतुर्विधम् अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः प्राणापान समायुक्तः पचाम्यम् अन्नं चतुर्विधम् अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहम् आश्रितः प्राण अपान समायुक्तः पचाम्य अन्नं चतुर्विधम्. Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro. Vaishvanaro means the fire of digestion. In our stomach we can digest things because there is a fire of digestion. Krishna says, I am that. I am the fire of digestion in all the living entity. It's not only in human, in all the living entity. Bhutva praninam deham ashritam. I am situated in their dehi, in their body. Ashritam, and I am the fire of digestion. And then he says, prana apana samayukta. The air, the two airs, the pran and the breathing air that we do, prana and apan, these two airs, samayukta, balancing them, I help them for pachanya. Pachanya means digestion. What? Anna, the anna that we did, the food stuff that we take. And all sort of chaturvida means all the four kinds of food, whether it is a solid food or a liquid food or a semi-solid food, or it is something which we lick. All those foods are actually getting digested by me, right? So this is what it says. Let's read the translation. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. And I join with the air of life. Outgoing and incoming. To digest the four kinds of food stuff. Yeah. So Krishna is the sustainer. Without him, nothing can happen. We can't even digest our food, right? Food will not be produced because sun, moon, fire, we can't cook. Everything is Krishna. That is, he is the maintainer of all of us. This is what we did. We have one more shlok to complete this shlok. This section, we'll do it in the next time. With this, we finish today's class. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Let us chant our Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.